2022, knocked out in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Winning 4-3 in a classic series between two terrific teams.
2024, eliminated in the first round. 2025, once again, first round exit.
And the Pacers are moving on. What a comeback in overtime.
Just 4 years ago, the Milwaukee Bucks were on top of the basketball world. 2021 NBA champions.
The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions once again.
Breaking a 50-year drought since 1971. This is the same franchise that gave us Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Oscar Robertson, and modern-day Titan Giannis Antetokounmpo. A team once feared, now fading. A franchise built on dominance, superstars, and a fan base among the most passionate in the league, now facing its harshest reality yet. Now the Milwaukee Bucks find themselves spiraling into a downfall no one expected. Their cornerstone, Giannis Antetokounmpo, is uncertain about his future with the team. They're strapped for cash, unable to bring in another superstar, and they haven't made it past the second round of the playoffs since their 2021 championship. The question everyone's asking, what went wrong in Milwaukee? How did a championship team so full of promise fall apart so quickly? After their 2021 title, the Bucks were supposed to dominate. Giannis was in his prime, Middleton came up clutch, Holiday was a defensive beast, and the core was still together. But that title run, it cost them everything, physically and financially. In September 2023, the Bucks made what was supposed to be a blockbuster move. They traded away Jrue Holiday, their defensive anchor and one of the league's most reliable two-way guards, in a three-team deal that brought Damian Lillard to Milwaukee. On paper, it looked perfect. Lillard, a clutch-time assassin and one of the NBA's deadliest scorers, was supposed to solve their shot creation issues. Pairing him with Giannis Antetokounmpo felt like destiny, an unstoppable 1-2 punch. But what the Bucks didn't calculate was the cost of losing Jrue. His defense, leadership, and quiet consistency weren't just valuable, they were foundational. By giving him up, Milwaukee didn't just trade a player. They traded away the soul of their championship identity. Jrue Holiday wasn't just a starter, he was the heart of Milwaukee's defense. A master of guarding positions 1 through 3 with intelligence, toughness, and elite instincts, here's what the Bucks gave up. 2022-23, averages 19.3 PPG, 7.4 APG, 5.1 RPG, 47.9% FG. Defensive win shares 3.8, fourth among all guards. Team defensive rating 110.9 with Jrue on the floor. All defensive team 5x selection including first team in 2022. But Jrue's value went far beyond numbers. It was about moments. Like in Game 5 of the 2021 Finals, when he stripped Devin Booker and lobbed the alley-oop to Giannis, an iconic sequence that defined their championship run. He wasn't flashy, he was clutch, poised, and cold-blooded when it mattered most. Trading him away was one of the Bucks' worst decisions. Even Celtics star Jason Tatum was stunned that Milwaukee let Jrue go so easily.
At first, I was like, I can't believe Milwaukee let this happen. So thanks to the Bucks.
To make matters worse, Boston swooped in, acquiring Jrue from Portland in a trade that sent Robert Williams III, Malcolm Brogdon, and 2 future first-round picks the other way. The Celtics knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't just improve their roster, they stole exactly what Milwaukee couldn't afford to lose. In Boston, Jrue thrived. He embraced a reduced offensive role and transformed the Celtics' defense into a juggernaut. With Jrue locking down the perimeter, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were free to focus on scoring, confident that their backcourt was in safe hands.
Celtics with the steal. Holiday, Tatum takes his time, knocks it down.
The result? Boston finished with the best record in the East and went on to win the championship. Meanwhile, the Bucks? They crashed out in the first round again. Milwaukee didn't just lose Jrue Holiday. They handed their biggest rival the missing piece to a title run. In the fall of 2023, the Milwaukee Bucks made a move that sent shockwaves through the NBA. Desperate to maximize Giannis Antetokounmpo's championship window, they went all in, trading for seven-time All-Star Damian Lillard, the longtime face of the Portland Trail Blazers. The goal? Create one of the most unstoppable duos in the league. But that deal came at a steep price. To land Lillard, the Bucks gave up Jrue Holiday, their defensive heartbeat, along with Grayson Allen, multiple first-round picks, and nearly all of their financial flexibility. Lillard arrived with a $176 million Supermax extension, and by the start of the 2024-25 season, the Bucks were spending over $100 million on just three players: Giannis, Lillard, and Chris Middleton. What they got in return, though, was not the Damian Lillard they had dreamed of. His scoring dipped to 24.3 points per game, his lowest since 2015. His shooting efficiency fell to 42.4% from the field and 35.1% from three.
A lot of the heavy lifting. Here you go, finally.
And on defense, he was a clear weak link, often targeted in switches and posting one of the worst defensive ratings among starting point guards. Worse yet was his availability. Lillard missed over 20 games due to nagging injuries, calf tightness, ankle soreness, a groin strain, and when the playoffs arrived, he wasn't there when it mattered most. Milwaukee's title hopes vanished with a first-round exit, and their all-in gamble suddenly looked like a bust. As time marches on, the truth is becoming impossible to ignore. Damian Lillard, now 34, is no longer the explosive force he once was. His first step has slowed. His defensive weaknesses have become more pronounced, and his body is showing the wear and tear of a decade plus of heavy usage, something the Bucks can't afford in a title or bust window. Yet Milwaukee is locked in. Lillard is under contract through at least 2026-27, where he holds a $63 million player option, one he'll almost certainly accept given his declining form.
Lillard, he fires, no good, top of the rebound.
In betting on Dame, the Bucks didn't just lose Jrue Holiday, the soul of their championship defense, they also strengthened their biggest threat in the East, the Boston Celtics. Worse still, Milwaukee mortgaged nearly their entire future. They sent away almost every first-round pick through 2030, leaving them with no draft capital, no cap flexibility, and an aging, injury-prone core. This wasn't just a gamble that failed. It was a franchise-defining collapse. The Bucks dreamed of a dynasty built around Giannis and Dame. Instead, they built a time bomb. And now, it's ticking. The superstar duo meant to save Milwaukee may be the very thing that destroys it. One of the most brutal realities the Milwaukee Bucks have faced since acquiring Damian Lillard is his recurring battle with injuries, setbacks that always seem to strike at the worst possible moments. When the team needed him most, Lillard was on the sidelines, not the floor. Throughout his career, Lillard has dealt with nagging issues, but his first full season in Milwaukee turned those concerns into a full-blown nightmare. Just weeks before the 2025 playoffs, Lillard was diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, a dangerous blood clot in his right calf. The diagnosis sidelined him for nearly a month, a critical stretch when Milwaukee's offensive rhythm unraveled and their playoff position slipped. Meanwhile, Giannis Antetokounmpo did everything he could. He averaged over 30 points per game, carrying the team night after night.
Giannis tips it to himself off the miss, spins and finishes with the left hand.
Force perimeter shots. Giannis inside against Aldama. Made sure that time.
As we've talked about, because of turnovers and second chance points, Giannis.
But as the season wore on, it became painfully obvious. Milwaukee was leaning too hard on one man to carry an entire franchise. But the real disaster struck when the playoffs began. In Game 4 of the first round, just as the Bucks were hoping to swing momentum in a tightly contested series, Damian Lillard went down with a devastating injury, a torn right Achilles tendon. The injury ended his season instantly, and with it, shattered Milwaukee's offensive structure and spirit. Their second star was gone, their game plan collapsed, and once again, all the weight fell on Giannis. In Game 5, he gave everything. He battled through double teams, absorbed relentless defensive pressure, and fought with the heart of a warrior.
Right now in terms of how the game is being played. Giannis on the attack, lays it up and through the field. Giannis, bucket. Milwaukee back on top.
But basketball isn't a solo sport. Without Lillard's scoring threat, the Bucks became painfully predictable, one-dimensional, and overmatched. They were eliminated in the first round for the third time in 4 seasons. Only this time, the loss felt heavier. This wasn't just a playoff exit, it was the death knell of what was supposed to be Milwaukee's super team era. Lillard's injury wasn't just the loss of points or minutes, it was a devastating blow to Milwaukee's entire long-term vision. An Achilles tear at age 34 is one of the toughest injuries to come back from, and it casts serious doubt over whether Lillard can ever return to his all-star form. Now, his age, his injury history, and his massive contract, a supermax deal that stretches into his late 30s, loom over the franchise like a dark cloud. What was once billed as the perfect pairing, a bold championship push, has spiraled into a worst-case scenario. Lillard, once hailed as the final missing piece, has become the most expensive and unavailable part of the puzzle. And with no draft picks, few young assets, and their cap space completely tied up, the Bucks are running out of time, resources, and answers. In the 2024 NBA playoffs, it was later confirmed that Damian Lillard suffered a strained right Achilles, not a full tear, but the damage was already done. The injury sidelined him during Game 3 and Game 4 of Milwaukee's first-round series, and the Bucks never recovered. But beyond injuries and contracts, one of the most overlooked, yet devastating issues plaguing the Milwaukee Bucks is their complete failure to invest in young talent. While other franchises are nurturing promising rookies and grooming future stars, the Bucks have no pipeline in place. No youth movement, no spark off the bench, no next-generation player ready to carry the torch. And instead of addressing the problem, they've only deepened the wound, trapped in a web of short-sighted trades and asset mismanagement. Their future isn't just uncertain, it's slipping out of their control. They don't own any of their first-round picks for the next several years, and that's not an exaggeration. Here's the brutal reality. 2025, owed to New Orleans or Brooklyn. 2026, swap rights held by New Orleans. 2027, fully owed to New Orleans. 2028, swap rights held by Portland. 2029, owed to Portland. 2030, swap rights again held by Portland. This isn't a short-term setback, it's a long-term disaster. Milwaukee is locked out of the most crucial tool for any rebuilding franchise, the draft. No rookies, no top prospects, no flexibility. They bet everything on chasing one more championship run. And now that window is slamming shut, with no clear way to pry it back open. One of the most critical, and perhaps fatal, of flaws in the Milwaukee Bucks' downfall is their failure to bring in fresh young talent. In today's NBA, first-round picks aren't just potential. They're the foundation of a franchise's future. They offer the ability to reset, rebuild, and reload, without gutting your roster or overpaying in free agency. But for Milwaukee, those doors are now closed. In chasing one more championship, the Bucks mortgaged nearly every first-round pick for the rest of the decade. And now they're stuck, with no clear path to inject new life into a roster that's aging fast. No young stars to develop, no future faces of the franchise waiting in the wings. Giannis Antetokounmpo remains in his prime, dominant, consistent, and loyal. But he can't carry this burden alone forever. As the seasons grind on, the toll of dragging an aging, top-heavy roster becomes more and more visible. Damian Lillard's arrival brought hope, but not the playoff results they were counting on. And now, with injuries and age catching up, even Dame's best years may be behind him. What Giannis needs now is what every superstar eventually needs: a new generation of help, young, energetic, hungry players who can contribute right away and grow into the stars of tomorrow. But thanks to years of short-term decisions, the Bucks have made that nearly impossible. Now, let's look at the contrast. Take the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that was near the bottom of the standings just a few seasons ago. Instead of panicking or overspending, they committed to the draft. They made the future a priority. Fast forward to today, and the Thunder sit atop the Western Conference, led by MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and backed by a rising core that includes Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Isaiah Joe. They're young, deep, and dangerous, And more importantly, they're built not just for today, but for the next decade. Now, look at Milwaukee. They also have an MVP-caliber player in Giannis Antetokounmpo, but unlike Shea, Giannis stands alone. There's no rising star beside him, no Chet Holmgren, no Jalen Williams, no surge of youthful energy to balance the weight he carries. Instead, Milwaukee's bench is thin, their role players are aging, and their draft cupboard is completely bare. And with no first-round picks under their full control until at least 2031, there's no easy path forward. In today's NBA, where youth, depth, and flexibility define success, the Bucks are trapped in a fading model. They have a generational superstar who needs help now and a future they've already mortgaged away. Unless something drastic changes soon, the Bucks aren't just at risk of wasting Giannis's prime. They may be sacrificing the entire next era of Milwaukee basketball. Despite being one of the most dominant forces in modern basketball, Giannis Antetokounmpo now stands at a critical crossroads with the Milwaukee Bucks, the franchise he's carried for over a decade. A two-time MVP, a 2021 NBA champion, Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, perennial All-NBA selection. Giannis has done everything humanly possible to keep Milwaukee in contention. And in the 2024-25 season, he was once again elite, averaging 30.1 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 6.4 assists per game, shooting a blistering 60.2% from the field, anchoring the defense, and dominating in transition. Yet, despite his historic production and unwavering loyalty, Giannis is once again staring down the barrel of another early playoff exit. Why? Because he's surrounded by an aging, injury-prone core, no bench production, and a franchise with no clear direction. Milwaukee's bench ranked 27th in the league in scoring this season, averaging just 26.8 points per game. When Giannis sat, the team collapsed, offering little offense and even less defensive stability. The coaching situation hasn't helped either. Since the firing of championship coach Mike Budenholzer in 2023, the Bucks have been trapped in sideline chaos, first with the short-lived and turbulent tenure of Adrian Griffin, and now under Doc Rivers, whose leadership has sparked constant scrutiny. Rivers' rotations have been inconsistent, the offensive schemes stagnant, and Milwaukee has repeatedly faltered in crunch time, finishing 22nd in clutch time net rating during the 2024-25 season. Giannis, as always, has done everything in his power. Night after night, he's faced double and triple teams with little help, no floor spacing, no secondary playmaker, and no reliable system to ease the load. While stars like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are thriving in forward-thinking systems surrounded by young talent, Giannis is still battling with a roster built on short-term fixes and long-term liabilities. Worse still, Milwaukee's championship window appears slammed shut, possibly until at least 2031, with nearly every first-round pick from 2025 through 2030 either owed or subject to swap rights with New Orleans and Portland. The Bucks have no clear path to rebuilding through the draft. No young cornerstone, no long-term plan. Damian Lillard is locked into a $60+ million deal through age 37. Brook Lopez is turning 37. Chris Middleton has already been traded. And the salary cap? Maxed out. Giannis has never publicly demanded a trade. But for the first time in his career, his patience seems to be cracking. In recent interviews, he said plainly, "Winning matters more than loyalty." And with the Bucks falling further from true contention, the possibility of his departure is no longer unthinkable. It's likely. Unless Milwaukee pulls off a miracle, this could be the final chapter of Giannis Antetokounmpo in a Bucks jersey. A tragic end to a legendary era, built on everything he gave, and everything the franchise failed to give back. In yet another puzzling move that reflected the front office's growing desperation, the Milwaukee Bucks traded for Kyle Kuzma, a high-volume scorer with minimal defensive upside, hoping he could finally provide the secondary offensive punch they'd been missing. But instead of offering solutions, Kuzma only added to the chaos. While his scoring hovered around 17 to 19 points per game, his production was largely hollow, fueled by inefficient shooting, questionable decision-making, and minimal defensive impact.
Per game and a line drive three.
He shot just 43.2% from the field and 30.8% from three in Milwaukee, frequently forcing shots, stalling offensive flow, and failing to mesh with either Giannis or Lillard. On the defensive end, his effort was inconsistent, often allowing opposing wings to thrive, further weakening an already crumbling perimeter defense. And the financial hit? Kuzma arrived on a $25+ million annual contract, further strangling a salary cap that was already stretched to its limits. The low point came in Game 1 of the first round against the Pacers, where Kuzma played 20 minutes and posted 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 0 assists. It wasn't just a bad game. It was a brutal reflection of how far Milwaukee's roster construction had fallen. As of now, all eyes are on Giannis Antetokounmpo, the lone pillar still standing in Milwaukee, carrying the shattered remains of a once great franchise. With Damian Lillard sidelined until at least May 2026 due to his Achilles injury and the Bucks stripped of all meaningful first-round picks through the end of the decade, any realistic hope of rebuilding a contender around Giannis has all but disappeared. There's no youth movement, no cap flexibility, no rising star ready to take the reins, just fading contracts, broken bodies, and the distant memory of a championship banner that now feels like it was raised a lifetime ago. And now, as whispers grow louder about Giannis weighing his future, both the franchise and its fans are left bracing for the unthinkable. If Giannis Antetokounmpo leaves, it won't be betrayal. It will be resignation, the quiet, heartbreaking decision of a man who gave everything and received too little in return. Since 2013, he transformed Milwaukee from a forgotten franchise into champions. But greatness doesn't grow in isolation. He stayed when others left. He bled for a city that embraced him. He carried a legacy that no one else could. But even the strongest shoulders have limits. And so, this might truly be the end of the Milwaukee Bucks era. Not with confetti and banners, but with injuries, silence, and a superstar walking away under the crushing weight of unfulfilled promise. A dynasty that could have been, now reduced to memory. The deer are no longer feared. The hunt is over.